Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.
Few topics have divided Europe as much in recent years as migration and asylum. So today we'll be talking about the new pact on migration and asylum proposed by the Commission. More specifically, the proposed new partnerships with third countries to address Europe's migration challenges and opportunities.
In recent years, Europe has had to respond to the most severe migratory challenge since World War II. In 2015, more than 1.8 million irregular migrants, most of them claiming for asylum, knocked on Europe's doors, exposing the flaws of the European asylum system and weakening solidarity between member states.
By 2019, and thanks in part to the 2016 EU-Turkey deal, irregular arrivals had dropped to 140,000. Its lowest level in 6 years, and 92% below the peak of the migratory crisis. Let's hear the Commissioner in charge of Home Affairs, Ylva Johansson.
Last year, 140,000 irregular arrivals, and a minority of them, 1/3, were refugees. The others are not refugees, and they will have a negative asylum decision and a return decision. And that shows also what we need to address better is the effectiveness on returns and readmission to the countries of origin.
There's no doubt the situation has improved, and yet, despite migration no longer being an emergency nor the main concern of EU citizens, it remains an important political priority for the EU. So what has Europe done to prevent the 2015 drama from repeating itself in the future?
Building on previous work, the Commission proposed in 2020 a new pact on migration and asylum to reinforce solidarity among the member states and to strengthen management and asylum procedures.
And because the real change has to be made where the challenges arise, the new pact has a strong external dimension too. Now, what does this mean?
Building on current EU migration partnerships with third countries, the new strategy aims to reinforce these with a view to ensuring effective returns, combating migrant smuggling more effectively, and developing legal migration channels, something which has been repeatedly stressed by both Commissioners Johansson and Commissioner Schinas, in charge of coordinating the Commission's work on the new pact.
We need fewer irregular arrivals and instead have more regular arrivals. That's why we have to focus on legal pathways, both for migrants to come to contribute to our economy and for refugees that need international protection.
Europe needs neighbors, partners in the world to manage migration flows. What we will be doing with countries of origin and transit will have a double objective. First, to help them help their people, so that they can have a better life with more opportunities in their countries. And second, we want to do more for their countries themselves so that we can help them break the business model of the smugglers, help them establish better, effective border management, asylum and reception systems, returns and readmissions.
Under the new pact, the EU Borders Agency Frontex could play a greater role in helping third countries to manage their borders more effectively.
At the same time, partner countries, EU member states and international organisations would increase information exchange, capacity building and joint actions on the ground through partnerships to counter migrant smuggling.
The new EU Asylum Agency would also be able to provide increased support to third countries' asylum systems in cooperation with international organisations in the field.
The new pact replaces the so-called Dublin regulation, which determined the country responsible for processing each asylum claim by an allegedly more effective and comprehensive governance system that ensures greater solidarity between EU member states.
So what do stakeholders have to say?
Speaking to the press before a jumbo council in March 2021 that brought together EU ministers of Interior and Foreign Affairs ministers to discuss migration from a wider perspective, the Portuguese president of the Home Affairs Council, Eduardo Cabrita, acknowledged the need for migration partnerships to better take partner countries' priorities into account. When assessing partnerships with neighbouring countries, we need to take into account the many dimensions of migration. Development cooperation, common support to the management of migratory flows from countries of origin and transit, better cooperation in the management of common borders, and a more dynamic relation with our neighbour countries. The European Parliament acknowledges the need to strengthen the link between migration and development policies as a way to address the root causes of irregular migration, but has expressed concern over the quantitative approach to returns and calls for paying more attention to reception conditions and to better support local economies in countries of origin. It also calls for more formal EU readmission agreements, which it could scrutinise.
Members of the European Parliament have also repeatedly called for more adequate and accessible channels for legal migration. And as the chair of the European Parliament's Committee on Justice and Home Affairs, Fernando López Aguilar, said,
"This new pact on migration and asylum is not meant to fill a vacuum, to fill a void or a lacuna, because there is not. There is a migration package, there is an asylum package. We have made laws on the matter, which is binding law for the member states, though violated all too many times."
Many academia and non-governmental organisations dealing with migration have also complained that the new European strategy put less emphasis on pathways to legal migration than on measures aimed at incentivising third countries to retain potential irregular migrants or to accept returns.
Let's listen to Catherine Woolard, Secretary-General of the European Council of Refugees and Exiles.
We would want to see a massive expansion in the acceptance of people through safe and legal channels, because it should be about Europe doing its fair share of responsibility.
What's clear, the world being nothing like a fair place, is that Europe will continue to attract people escaping war and persecution, or simply in search of a better life for themselves and their families. But Europe cannot face this challenge alone.
It is a global challenge requiring global solutions at political, economic, social and security levels. And without solidarity between global players, between EU member states and with partner countries, it's hard to see how we can contribute to making the world a better place.
This is a European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.
Thanks for listening.